sir, we are going live for round 4 tipping, baby. Hey guys, how you going? Today on BKRsport, we are back here for round 4 tipping video. Obviously, if you guys haven't seen these before, we'll be going through all 8 games of the round, plus also talking to you guys live in the chat. If you guys aren't here live, there will be timestamps afterwards, but we'll be talking to you guys live about each selection, what your thoughts are, and a bit of back and forth there. After I do my preview and my analysis, I'll read through each individual game, then come across to you guys. Now, guys, obviously, it's round 4 now, and it's a really, really difficult season to predict. If anyone's gotten a perfect season today, that's 8, 16, 24... correct tips, congratulations, you are a freak. Like, you are genuinely a freak if you have gotten 24 tips right, let alone even if you've gotten 20 tips right throughout this season. It has been so difficult, so many upsets. I was probably around a medium range last week with 4 out of 8. A lot of people had 2, some people had 1. I saw quite a few have 3, and then a couple have 5 and whatnot. So if you did more than 5, you know, you did a good job. But overall, I was actually reasonably okay with it to get 4, which is quite poor based off of regular seasons, if you know what I'm saying there. But, you know, it's a great season. I'm loving it. You know, I've got to go up to Townsville this week for the Titans versus the Cowboys game. Obviously, my boys won on the weekend against the Melbourne Storm. We're 2-1 right now. And it's just a fun year. You know, I saw a comment the other day saying that it's been disappointing. If anyone thinks it's been disappointing, I don't know what games you're watching, because we watch every game here, obviously, on the channel, and I just don't know how people couldn't be absolutely, you know, invested and enthralled in the season when, you know, you've got the Parramatta Eels, who are in 16th and made the grand final last year. You've only got 2 teams in the top 8 right now who were in the top 8 last year. 6 of the top 8 were bottom 8 teams last year. I was about to say bottom 9 because it is a bottom 9 now. You know, the Dolphins and Broncos are got a game this week that is literally top of the table, first versus second. It just really is intriguing. It really is intriguing. And to see all the teams that weren't great last year, they're in the top 8 right now this year, it just really is impressive. And although the season will ultimately even itself out quite dramatically, if it keeps going like this, it'll be fantastic. But I believe at some point you'll see the season really even itself out a lot more so than what it is right now. But guys, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe if you're new around here. Let's get to 22k. We are so close to hitting the old 22k marker. And let's get into the chat. Let's see what you guys are saying before we do jump into our tips for the week. Now, like I said, guys, if you are watching this after the video's gone live, then there will be timestamps for every single game that we talk about. Jesse says, hey Blaze, how have you been? I guess if you don't mention it, I'll throw it out there. Rest in peace, John Sattler, legend of league. Yeah, Johnny Sattler was obviously a massive legend of the game, man. You know, it was a tough day there for the rugby league community yesterday, and, you know, obviously it's part of life, but, you know, it doesn't make it easier, even though you do understand that and respect that. You know, it was a man who really, you know, did a lot of stuff for the game, created the game realistically, you know, in a lot of ways, and, you know, it's just a really tough bloke. So rest in peace, the big man. No, absolutely. Nevada says, go the Cowboys. Shush. Ultimate Peace Lord says, hey, go Titans. Now, that's a man that I want to talk to. Alexander says, up to Finns. Ultimate Peace Lord says, the predictions no one would have got was probs the Warriors beating the Cowboys. Yeah, so obviously, we'll quickly go and have a look here at round 3, just to quickly go over and skim through. Manly versus Parramatta. I'd say most people tip Manly. I went with the Eels, unfortunately, there. But I'd say most people tip Manly there. So most would have been 1-0. I went with the Dolphins. That was a bit of a 50-50 as well, because a lot of people would have gone the home team and the Knights, but I went with the Dolphins. Roosters and Rabbitohs, I did go the Rabbitohs, and I think a majority went with the Rabbitohs, but, you know, it was still a very 50-50 affair. I know that a vast majority went with the Storm in the game against the Titans. Obviously, I tipped my Titans, but I'm going to do that regardless, right? But with that being said, I also knew that we had a really good chance of winning that game, and we did. Cowboys and Warriors, I don't think that any sane person who's not a Warriors fan tips the Warriors in that game. You would have to be crazy to have tipped the Warriors in that game and not be a Warriors fan, in my opinion. But the Cowboys continue to disappoint. They do. They continue to disappoint, to be completely honest with you. Broncos and Dragons, I don't think anyone really went with the Dragons. There was some, obviously, but overall, the Broncos really should have been a bit of an easy pick out at Suncorp. They are the form team of the comp at the moment. Just wait to the end of the year. Bulldogs and Tigers. Look, Bulldogs won that game with a bloody edge of their seat, man. That wasn't easy. You know, they were up like 26-6 with like 15 minutes to go, and then Luke Brooks turned into prime front of them first and came back in that one. But I did get that tip right. And then the Rays and the Sharkies, that was a hard one to predict there. Obviously, no Nico Hines there. There are a few more problems than just Nico Hines there not being it in the team, because obviously the Sharkies defensively just have not been doing well so far this season. You look back at round 1, gave 26, 27 points to the Rabbitohs. Game 2, gave 26 points to the Eels, and then this one got 24 points to the Raiders. So they have not had a less than 24 points conceded game so far, the Sharks. So there are worrying signs. Now, another thing to take note for this week is the bye is the Roosters, the Sydney Roosters here. They will have the bye, and then they'll play Parramatta next week, as we all are aware, because Parramatta keep having to face the teams off the bye. They do. Gargoyle getting around the Titans. Evan says, your first time at Country Bank, that should be an experience for you. Yeah, it should be fine. Cambridge says Titans for the 3-1 start. That's what I like to see. Albert Peaceful says Bulldogs in the top 8. Doggies, yeah, Bulldogs are currently in the top 8. They are currently in the top 8. Or yeah, getting around from Zakithos in Greece and getting around the Dragons. Alexander says Cotter's out for the Cowboys. Well, I haven't seen the team list yet, boys, so don't ruin it yet. I'll get into each game and read through the team list, but that is a big out there. Why can't Brooks play like that all the time? Come on, because he plays for the Tigers. Zane Murray says, I love how it's getting a bit even and not only good teams are winning. No, it's really good. Yeah, no, it is. It's a really good season, man. A really, really good season. Jesse says, I'm just happy the Trooks get a free 2 points this week. All right, fair enough. All right, so let's get into the first game here, guys. And that's going to be the Parramatta of the Squeals versus the Penrith Panthers. Now, again, guys, this is not an easy week to tip. Again, it's really difficult for a majority. I think the next game will be pretty easy, but for a majority, yeah, this is again another very, very tough week. So obviously hit that thumbs up button, guys. Subscribe if you're new around here. Let's get into the Parramatta Squeals versus the Penrith Panthers. So obviously the Eels are in 16th, Panthers 5th. Now the Panthers are in 5th because they had the bye. They got free 2 points there, obviously. Now these two teams, as you guys know, did face in the grand final last year with the Panthers coming out on top by a big margin. But it does seem like the Eels do get the regular season wins against the Panthers recently. I don't know what it is. They just seem to be able to do it in the regular season, not when it comes to the crunch. Look back at 2021, where they also, lost 8-6 in the semi-final, and then last year, grand final, whatnot. So it just seems like this team can win it in the regular season, not in the finals. We move on to the ins and outs here. Brendan Hands, Hayes Dunster, Offahicky Ogden, Ryan Maddow back in the team. Tony Mathaeli coming in with Jack Murchie going out. Clint Gutherson is the captain as the fullback with Micah Sivo and Bailey Simonson on the wings. Wonga Blake and Will Penasini in the centres. You got Dylan Brown in the 6, Mitchell Moses in the halfback. Regan Campbell-Gillard and Junior Paulo front row. Josh Hodgson in the number 9. Actually had a better game. He had a better game on the weekend against Manly. Bryce Cartwright, Ryan Maddow at the back row with Jermaine Hopgood as the lock. He had a great try assist on the weekend. Not for his own team, though. Matt Dory, Brendan Hands, Rory McGreek, and Makahesi Makatoa are the interchange with Jake Arthur, Jerome Momoyasia, Offahicky Ogden, Tony Mathaeli, and Hayes Dunster as the reserves there. So pretty much full strength team there. Pretty much. Just obviously no Sean Lane still there in that back row. And I guess you could say Sean Russell on the wing, but Bailey Simonson is effectively their starting winger all season now, pretty much, because of that injury. So yeah, look, but then again, the Eels have had a strong team in every game so far. It's not like they've had really solid injuries. They've had their core there. They've had most of their back rowers weren't complete, but most of their forwards outside of that were fine, and then the back line's pretty much just how it is, right? So, not really many excuses so far for the Eels, in my opinion. Moving on to the Penrith Panthers, Jack Cogger, Scotty Sorensen, Tom Jenkins, Tyron Peachy, and Zach Hosking, with Lindsay Smith being the out. You got Dylan Edwards as the fullback, and Suna Tarova and Brian To'o on the wings. Isaac Tungo and Stephen Crichton centres, with Jerome Luai in the 5'8", Nathan Cleary captain and halfback. We got Mose Leota and James Fisher-Harris as the front row. Mitch Kenny is the hooker. Luke Garner, Liam Martin back row, and then Isaiah Yeo is the lock. Sonny Luke, Scott Sorensen, Spencer Lanier, and Jamin Salmon interchange, with Matty Eisenhuth, Zach Hosking, Tyrone Peachy, Jack Cogger, and Tom Jenkins as the reserves. Strong Panthers team. They're coming off a bye. Realistically, they should be aiming to really, I would still say bounce back. I don't think they've necessarily proven themselves just yet, actually, this season. For the first game, they lost 13-12 to the Broncos. The second game, they beat the Rabbitohs in a close margin. I think they were better than the scoreline represented. However, the Rabbitohs were literally like a metre from putting the ball and winning the game last second. Sending it to extra time. So that scoreline didn't represent how dominant I think the Panthers were in that game to the last 5-10 minutes. However, they have not been their dominant best yet. And if there's going to be a game for them to do it, it would be the Eels, who are one of their better rivals. Look, I don't really know who. It's a big rivalry. It's a local derby is what I'm calling it, but I don't think it's as heated as... I think that Fisher Harris was really trying to actually heat it up last year, to be completely honest with you. But who will be my tip for this game? It is a difficult one because the Eels are at home. They're 0-3. They're getting slandered. They're getting abused. They're getting blasted left, right, and centre by their fans, by opposition fans, by the media, by everyone right now, right? So the Eels have a lot to play for, and especially it is a return game from the grand final where they got pumped. So revenge game is the word I was looking for there. So there is a lot of benefits to Parramatta. However, when you look at Penrith, they have a lot to play for too. They need to re-establish themselves in the comp. I don't think they've really necessarily done that just yet. They've got some fantastic players, obviously still back-to-back premiers, plus also 3 grand finals in a row. There's nothing really wrong with this Panthers team. Luke Garner hasn't really filled the shoes of William Kikau too much just yet, but overall, alpha bye, I'm going to take the Panthers here. I'm going to do it, but I can absolutely see a world where the Eels surprise. I can see a world. I think that majority, if not pretty much all, will take the Panthers here. So it's not one that I'm willing to necessarily risk. Sometimes you've just got to know when to risk and when not to risk, and I don't think I'm happy to risk that one, just because I think that with the bye, we've already seen that Manly, to be fair, Manly were a little bit shaky. That game was not exactly fantastic for either team between Manly and the Eels. Manly made a lot of ill discipline, a lot of errors and whatnot, but I just feel like the Panthers are going to be crisp. I feel like they're going to be slick, and I really like the Panthers in this game. But again, Eels are a good shout. So let's go have a look at the chat. Let's go have a look at the chat. Zay Murray says Panthers 1-12. Cleary to blitz the Eels and score 2 tries, Alexander says. I wouldn't necessarily say no to that. The last time was grand final. The one before that was the one where Cleary got sent off, like in the 30th minute, and the Eels went on to rout them at CommBank. This is in Parramatta, mind you. Danley says Penrith win. Ultimate Peaceful says Panthers 1-12 for me. Bentley says Panthers 13+. I think 13+ is a little bit outrageous, and the reason why I'll say for people who are betting, if you're going to bet on 13+, the scorelines this year have all been very, very close, right? Really, really close. The average margin is like 8, which is the lowest ever margin that we've seen in NRL history so far, right? To say 13+ in a game that has a lot of impact here for the Eels too, I don't see it. I don't see it. Like, could it happen? Absolutely. But I don't see it. And if the Eels do lose 13+ here, then they are genuinely going to be in the bottom 4 team this year. Because even though I still back them in, because they've only lost 3 games by a margin of 4 points every single game to 3 good teams, mind you. Well, Manly we'll see. But, the Sharks and who was the other team that they played? I can't remember. Point of the matter is that they've lost 3 games by 4 points each. They are not far off it. But if they're losing 13+ here and to go to 0-4, and then the Roosters come off a bye next week, I don't know. I really struggle to see them picking it up this season. Maybe not bottom 4, but they won't make... Then they're just not going to make the finals if they go on an 0-5 run and then play the Tigers, who actually have a pretty good record against them, especially last year when they beat them in the same game on Easter Monday. Bright Robert says, you have to think the Squeals are going to be up for this. Does that mean they're going to win, though? I don't know. Exactly right. That's the perfect way to say it. You'd have to think the Squeals are going to be up for this. Does that mean they're going to win, though? I don't know. That's exactly what I'm thinking. That comment to a T. Arnold Peaceful said, I wonder what's going wrong with the Eels this year. They were grand finalists last year. I don't think there is a dramatic amount of change, but look at the teams that they've played. Look at the teams that they've... that's right, the Storm. Storm was the first game and they lost by 4. But look at the teams they've played. They've played the Storm, but then again, the Storm haven't looked great. My team just put 38 points past them, and the Dogs put like 36 points past them. So, I don't know. I don't think the Eels are actually as far off the pace as everyone is making out for them, because it is the Eels and people do like to insult the Eels. 38 years, 14, 15 wooden spoons. We get it. I don't think they're as far off the pace people assume. But if they do go on 5 and if they did lose that game with the Tigers, make it on 6, then there'd be... Like, there is alarm bells ringing, but that would be tsunami warning. That would be tsunami warning. Jesse says, Penrith at 1-12. My only thing is the Eels in previous years seem to play better against tougher sides. The better the opponents play, the better they do. Wonder if they can find that form. Panthers, though, but look at the first 3 games that they've had. It's not like they're playing the Tigers, the Knights, and the... Who's another team right down that bottom area? Who's another? I can't even think of a team right now. Go with it. Just go the Warriors. Go the Warriors. But even though they've been pretty good, but it's not like they're playing those 3 teams. You know what I'm saying? They're playing some decent teams at the very least. Zane Rose says, yeah. So Panthers won at 12. If only Mo's got all the kicks in, goal kicks in. Yeah, goal kicks change games, obviously. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Malcolm says, great vlog from the stadium, BK. I appreciate it, Malcolm. Obviously, we're at every game this year, so if you guys haven't checked out the latest vlog, it is in the pinned comment. I'll do a couple more comments here, and then we'll move on to the next game. I'm surprised you don't look like a burnt potato crispy the other day. I don't know why. I actually tanned. Artie says, Dory. Dory got injured. Dory did his ACL or something, didn't he? Didn't he do like a really serious injury? I'm pretty certain he did like a pretty serious injury, man. Yeah, I'm not... Oh, no, sorry. No, who am I thinking of? Because Matt Dory's in the 14. Am I thinking of Matt Dory? Who am I thinking of? Okay, we're going to time you out, bro, because, yeah, thanks, Brighton. Who is the one... I thought it was Matt Dory. Maybe not. Maybe not. But people like Bryce Cartwright and Supercoach will be pretty happy with Bryce Cartwright still being the starting back row there. X-Ray says, Cleary needs to have a big game. Hasn't really done that yet. MMA says, Para could win having a home ground advantage and hungry for a win. Penrith could also be rusty after a week off. You're not wrong, but I personally think that the Panthers will win. If Eels go 0-4, everyone would love that. If they go 0-4, they're more than likely go 0-5. He hasn't done the Dogs yet. You guys think Warriors could win. We'll get there eventually. Elijah Moyer says, so that is the 3rd time Penrith have played in 3 games. That is the 3rd time Penrith have played at home in 3 games. This isn't a home game. This is a CommBank game for Parramatta. It was Dory. So it was Dory. So what's Dory doing on the bench then? Okay, well maybe maybe we're all over the shop. I don't know. Anyway, guys, let's get off with that one. Let's move on to the next game. But that's my tip. So I'm going to go Panthers. I'll go 1-12, but a very, very, very difficult match to start off with. Every Thursday night game has been difficult to start off with. But all right, let's move on now to the Melbourne Storm versus the West Tigers. Hit that thumbs up button, guys. Subscribe if you are new around here. Let's get it, baby. But the Melbourne Storm are 13th. The West Tigers are 17th, and this is in Melbourne, so it won't be as hot as it was on Saturday night on the Gold Coast, where obviously the Storm did lose 38-34 to my boys, the Gold Coast Titans there. And the first 2 games, they got absolutely walloped by the Doggy. Second half, not so much, but the first half they got walloped by the Doggy. Second half, the Storm came back, but they still lost by about 18 or so points in that one, or 14. I can't remember, something close to that. And the first game was an 18-14 victory to the Storm over the Eels. It was a 4-point game there. So, and that was in extra time. The Storm are all over the shop this year. I know that I can see Munster coming back into the team this week. But in the same sense, they had a lot of players come back into the team last week as well. And they still couldn't get the job done there. The fact of the matter is that they still scored points. There's no complaining with the Storm scoring points in that game, but you can definitely complain with the fact that they conceded 38 points. Right? I understand the heat, I understand hot weather, but this Storm team just does not give the same vibes as per usual. And this is why pre-season I predicted them to come 9th, because I did say they're one serious injury or one injury away in their spine from completely collapsing. And you can see that when there's no Munster, Jerome Hughes loses a lot of his head. Harry Grant doesn't really get, I didn't even really notice Harry Grant a great deal against the Titans, to be completely honest with you. And there's still no Pappenhausen, and I don't even know if Pappenhausen comes back. Touch wood he does, but I don't know if he comes back the same, because that's a brutal injury to think about. Moving to the West Tigers, however, they are 0-3. They have been dreadful. They are exactly what I told you guys pre-season, and it's like, it's bullshit. I'm not going to go into one of my Tigers rants, but it's bullshit, because they showed in the last 15 minutes of that game, they showed from the 65th minute to the 75th minute that the Tigers actually can do something, right? The Dogs are a little bit overrated, but the Tigers showed in that 65 to 75 minute mark that they could absolutely, score some points. Luke Brooks turned into prime Jonathan Thurston, as I said. But again, the last 5 minutes, Adam Dewey dropped ball, they always drop the ball, no one can hold a ball, and they lose a game. They actually would have had that game. I believe, with 5 minutes to go, the Tigers had that game won, but then they decided to start and deliberately lose the game effectively. They didn't really deliberately, but the point of the matter is that they lost that game in that last 5 minutes because they had that game won with the way that they were absolutely tearing apart that Dogs defense in that 10-minute period. They had the game won, but they didn't, right? They didn't get it done. They lost to the Titans. They lost to in the second game. Can't remember who they played in the second game, but they've just been poor. They've really been poor, man. And There's no direction. There's no nothing. There's no point scoring. There's no bashing. There's no bashing. But for the Storm here, Adam Penne, Cameron Munster, Grant Anderson, Sualavi Falongo, and Tom Eisenhuth come in, with Jordan Grant going out. Nick Mees, the fullback, Will Warbrick and Xavier Coates as the wingers, Justin Olam, my boy, and Arima Smith in the centres. Cameron Munster is the 6, Jerome Hughes is the 7. You got Tui Kamikamica and Christian Welch as the front row, Harry Grant in the hooker. Trent Loiero and Elias Katoa as the back row, Josh King as the lock. Tyron Wisher, Alec McDonald, Tarek Sims and Bronson Garlic interchange with Tom Eisenhuth, Grant Anderson, Aaron Penne, Sualavi Falongo and Jonah Pezzett as the reserves. Joe Pezzett was alright, he was fine. He started off the game well, but it was fine. It was fine. Obviously, Cameron Munster is going to come into that 6th role, though, and take it off him. But we'll see how that eventuates, because obviously he'll come in during Origin. He'll come in if Munster has to have, has another injury at some point. Joe Pezzett looks like a promising young bloke coming through. For the Tigers, Alex Seifert, Dane Laurie, Isaiah Papali'i and Jake Simpkin come into the team with no outs there. Adam Dewey moves to the fullback role. He's not in that 6 anymore. They've actually put Brandon Wakeham there, because when Brandon Wakeham came on the other day, that's when they really turned it up a notch. But Adam Dewey goes to the fullback, Charlie Staines and Junior Tupper on the wings, Brent Naden and Asul Kepoa in the centres. This team is changing around way too much for me. They've already changed their 6 to the 1. They've already got a new 6 in. They've already put their back row back into the centres when he was in the centres already in Asul Kepoa. Brent Naden, wing centre. They don't know what they're doing. It's all over the shop. It really is. Brent Naden and Asul Kepoa in the centres. Brandon Wakeham is the 6. Luke Brooks is the 7. Stefano Witukomanu and David Clemmer in the front row. David Clemmer has not been his Newcastle best so far for sure. And then Apisai Kotowai-Sau is the captain as the hooker. Isaiah Papali'i and John Bateman back row. It's good to see that Bateman now is fully and ready to rock and roll. And Papali'i is back in, but again, they haven't really been able to utilise him when he has been playing anyway. Fanua Pole is the lock. Dane Laurie, Alex Twell, Sean Bloor, and Alex Seifert for the interchange, with Stafford Toa, Joe Ofahangawi, Justin Matamua, David Nofaluma, and Jake Simpkin reserves. Obviously, Nofaluma dropped. His defense not good enough, and it's just a turnstile on defense, right? So that's why they've dropped him there. I am going to take the Storm here, lads. I'm going to do it. I'm going to take the Storm. I'm sorry, I still can't tip the Tigers. I still can't do it. I can't do it, and I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go by 14, man. I'm gonna put my margin by 14. This Storm team, I think, might be waiting on the judiciary for Jerome Hughes as well. I believe that Justin Olam has received a fine for his high hit there on Tanner Boyd, but I'm not too sure about what's happening with Jerome Hughes. I can't take the Tigers, man. I can't do it. I can't do it. I want to. I really do want to, but down there in Melbourne as well should really benefit there for the Storm, and you'd hope they could get up for it. If they don't, it would be a really, really big win for the Tigers. It wouldn't put the season back onto track. However, it would be a momentum push-up, because even though the Storm, and this is what I said on the Titans vlog many times, even though the Storm don't have the same, I guess, belief from the opposition, right? Everyone saying how good they are from the opposition. Even though the Storm aren't that anymore, the fact of the matter is the Storm still have the name, the Melbourne Storm. They still do have some quality players here, right? Very quality players. So a Tigers win here would really boost their spirits and say, you know what, we'll just beat the Storm, because I know how the Titans are feeling right now. I know how our boys are feeling. So I would assume the same thing would go for the Tigers. But there you go. That's my tip. I'm taking the Storm, and I'll take them 13 plus. I just can't. I can't take the Tigers. I can't do it. Awesome peace thoughts at the end of the season. I want this to be top 1 Titans. That's all I need to see. Zampa says the Eels will win one of these games in the next 2 weeks. Alright, good luck. Good luck. If my Sunny Mouse says round 4 Penrith. There you go. Alexander says Tigers games have been close, to be fair. They've kept themselves in it. Who they're playing round 2 again? Who they're playing? Oh, Knights. Oh, no. You can't say they kept themselves in it against the Knights. No. That was a horrific game for them. The game against the Titans, you could say that they were relatively in it, but there was never really going to be the Tigers never really necessarily looked like they were going to lead, right? They were always convincingly and consistently below the Titans in that game. They had the attacking pressure, but we obviously could just see that they just didn't have the ability to score tries with their lack of backs. Had a conversation with a Tigers fan the other day, and he's like, "Oh, we've actually got decent backs." I'm like, "No, you don't. You don't have decent backs, and that's why you're not scoring points. That's why you're not doing a great deal of actually putting that benefit of the forwards getting into the attacking 10 2 scores. It's what it is. So, okay, you can say that, but with that being said, for 65 minutes, they weren't close with the Dogs. They were losing like 26-6, and then for a 10-minute period, the Tigers turned it on and got 14 odd points or 16 odd points, and then died in the arse the last 5 minutes. So I will disagree with you. I understand what you're trying to say, but I will also disagree with you. Older Peace also, does anyone feel the ref can make really harsh decisions and specific giving penalties that are so soft? Well, of course. Brighton says, if Storm lose this, I'm going to have to rethink everything I know. Exactly right. It's hard to adjust your mindset from growing up with this team being the most dominant team in the competition to now being, this will be their 3rd loss in a row if they did. They lost the Dogs, the Titans, and now if they lose the Tigers. Those 3 teams, think back to the last 5 years. Right? The Dogs, the Tigers, and the Titans have all been down that bottom area, right? Except for 2021 for the Titans. But those 3 teams have been down the bottom of the area of the table. So, yes, the Storm, not the same team, but they still have that name. Just says, God damn, this game, both sides are in shambles. I honestly wouldn't even be opposed to taking the Tigers, but I just think you can't go wrong with Melbourne this game. Melbourne won at 12, yep. Nate says, I had Nate on the bench instead of interchange, and it cost me one of my Supercoach matchups. 90 points. He went hard. Wow, I didn't even know he went that hard. Blaze has the Storm to bounce back to win by 20. Malcolm says, Tigers will not be proved they can foot it with the Storm. Will not prove they can foot it with the Storm. Oh, there you go. Brother says, Hughes could also be out if he loses fronting the judiciary. Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. Melda says, I'll go Storm to win 19-18. Christian Katz, the way this season has gone with 50% of games being upsets, I can see well with Tigers win this, but I'm still going to take the Storm. Yep, I agree. 100%. I understand. Alexander says, Wakeham impact was a fluke, to be honest. He came on like the 65th minute during a match in 38-degree heat. He just ran past gas players. That's not a fluke. That's good substitution work, and that's a good decision-making there. But in the same sense, I also am very well aware, I support the Fijian rugby league team in international competitions. Obviously, I'm Australian first, but Fiji because of my daughter. I always get around them, so I have a large investment in how that team goes, and he's not great for Fiji, and he hasn't been great at the Dogs, and it just hasn't been great until now. So it was one game. You are right in some aspects, but he did make an impact. And it was good substitution work there, to be completely fair. How they're meant to get chemistry by changing everything constantly. Bentley says Storm 36-28. Get one something else. Tiger Spine should be 1 Laurie, 6 Dewey, 7 Wakeham, 9 Appy. No, I'm not taking Dewey and Wakeham. No, I'm absolutely taking Luke Brooks over Wakeham, which may sound silly, but have a look at what he did in that last 15 minutes. This is why I say to you guys, Luke Brooks can still work. Luke Brooks is still a good player. It's just that obviously it's not working at the Tigers. He could honestly do better. Honestly, Dogs, he's better than Flano. Luke Brooks is better than Flano as a player individually. Luke Brooks is better than Flano. If you want to try something else, you want to see something else. He has won a Dally M Hart back in the year 5 years ago. He needs a new scenery. I honestly would not say no if there's no available halfbacks in the market for the Dogs picking him up to be a better 7 than Carl Flanagan. It's a crazy call, but I'm just throwing it out there. FTS is Tigers by it. All right, let's move on to the next game here. Let's move this on to the next game. Now, guys, obviously, do not forget, hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you are new around here. But let's go into the Friday night game, which is the Brisbane Broncos versus the Brisbane Broncos, the Redcliffe Dolphins and the Brisbane Broncos here. Dolphins obviously second. The Broncos are obviously in first. Let me just scroll up here so you can see the 2 logos there. Dolphins in second, Broncos in first. The Dolphins are $3 underdogs, which is interesting, but okay. I love that it's a home game for the Dolphins at Suncorp. The Broncos only have to play 2 more times in Sydney this year. FYI, just a fact. We're only to round 4. They've only got to play 2 more times in Sydney. It's outrageous. But the Dolphins obviously are 3-0 right now. They did beat the Roosters in round 1, which was cherry-picked. They did beat the Raiders in round 2 at KO Stadium. And then in round 3, they did come over the top of the Knights. So those last 2 games were, a bit how you going, specifically the Knights. The Roosters won, they'll still take that one. It's still the Roosters, right? However, the Roosters are infamous for not winning that round 1 game. Dolphins have looked fine. They've looked like they can turn it on when needed, but in the same sense, were largely unimpressive against the Knights until the last 5 minutes of that game. It was a tied game, or, a 4-point game with like 5-10 minutes to go, and the Dolphins kind of took it away there. So yeah, it was unfortunate there for the Knights, but the Dolphins were just the better team. They got the win. Broncos, on the other hand, can't believe the nut-sucking from Broncos fans in regards to that Broncos-Dragons game. Like, okay, cool, you won the game. They tore it apart, absolutely, in that last 10 minutes, and you can't deny that. But for the first 70 minutes, what happened? What happened in the first 70 minutes? Like, let's not pretend like that didn't exist, right? And that was against the Dragons team that, cool, Titans lost to, but the Dragons are still not going to be great this team this year. Overall, they're not going to be a great team. And that scoreline ultimately proved that, right? But in the first half, they struggled. And up until the 70th minute, overall, the Broncos did struggle. So we need to see the Broncos put a more consistent effort onto the field. But with that being said, championship teams win games by not being that great and then still being able to get the wins. Because they're going to be good more often than not, championship winning teams. But the ones where they're not that great and still get a win is the ones that you look at. So I guess Broncos fans can take that into account as well to say, okay, well maybe, that was one of those kind of games where we didn't look great, but we still got the win in the end there. But overall, Broncos are the most informed team in the comp right now. As a fact, you can't argue with that one. They did this last year, however, and they've done this for the last couple of years. So they've just got to really maintain this. We'll see. And this is a hard game to predict because Wayne Bennett, if anyone's going to beat the Broncos, it's Wayne Bennett. Not the Dolphins. It's Wayne Bennett. But looking here into the Dolphins team lineup, Anthony Milford comes in, Jared Wallace, Muppet. Honestly, this guy, I'm not going to lose it, but that guy, I lost so much respect for. I've lost so much respect for him in the way that he's been talking. He's been opening his trap. JJ Collins, Robert Jennings in with no outs there for the team. Oh man, sorry, I just got so angry thinking about Jared Wallace, Hamiso Tapuaifodo is the fullback with Jermaine Asako and Tessin on the wings, Ewan Aiken and Branko Lee in the centres. Isai Katoa is the 6 with Sean O'Sullivan as the halfback. Jesse Bromwich and Kenny Bromwich are the front rowers with... Oh, Kenny Brom's in the front row. Okay. Cody Nikorima is the 9. Felice Kifusi and Kaneli Lemielu is the back row with Tom Gilbert 13. I think Felice Kifusi might be getting suspended, but they've got him there. I could be wrong. Interchange... I'm not going to read his name out, is Dickhead. Mark Nichols, Ray Stone and Mason Teague, with the reserves being Pawasa Funmore Silly, Kurt Donahoe, JJ Collins, Anthony Milford and Robert Jennings as the reserves. So, yeah, a pretty straightforward Dolphins lineup there. I just don't think... it's interesting that Kenny Bromwich is in the front row rather than the back row. Obviously, they're just changing a few things around there. But it's a Dolphins team that you would expect, and Milford is not in the team unless they decide to, a late inclusion there. Moving over to the Broncos now. You've got Brendan Piakura, Jock Madden, Kobe Hetherington, and Xavier Willison as the ins with no outs there. Reece Walsh is a fullback with Jesse Arthurs and Selwyn Cobbo on the wings. Tony Staggs and Herbie Farmworth in the centres. Ezra Mem is the 6. Adam Reynolds is the 7 and the captain. Thomas Flegler and Payne Haas front rowers there. Payne Haas was incredible in that game against the Dragons. Billy Walters is the hooker. Kurt Catewell, Jordan Ricky back row. Patrick Carrigan is the lock with Corey Pate, Keenan Palacia, Corey Jansen and Martin Tapau. Interchange, Dean Mariner, Brendan Piakura, Kobe Hetherington, Jock Madden and Xavier Willison as the reserves here. Alright, who do I go with? The Dolphins, obviously, Wayne Bennett, he's going to have him up for this game for sure. Both teams are coming into this undefeated. You'd have to assume the Broncos are going to win this, but it's just like this could really establish the Dolphins as a team. But if you go through player by player, Hamiso, Reece Walsh, I would say is a wash. I think they're in a very similar position, similar parts of their career right now. Jermaine Asako and Tessin New, Selwyn Cobbo, Jesse Arthurs. I will still take the Broncos there in the Jesse Arthurs. They actually had a pretty good game against the Dragons. Ewan Aiken and Bronco League, Tony Staggs, Farmworth. I'll take the wingers and the centres of the Broncos. The fullback was the wash. The 6 is Isai Katoa, Ezra Mam. I'll take Ezra Mam just because he's been a little bit longer. And Sean O'Sullivan out of Reynolds. I'm obviously going to take Reynolds there. Front rowers, Bromwich and the Bromwich boys, Flegler and Payne Haas. I think that Payne Haas is so good that it does wipe the floor overall. I don't really care about Flegler. I think that Payne Haas overall is just such an utmost quality that I do think he takes it out for the front rowers there. So I will go the Broncos front rowers. I'm going to take Cody Nikorima in the hooker. I truly will, even though that's a bit of a... Actually, no, I'll say wash there between those two. Felice Kifusi, Connell Lemielu, Kurt Catewell, Jordan Ricky. I'll take the back rowers, actually, of the Dolphins in that one. And then Gilbert Carrigan, I'll take him Carrigan. Bench-wise, I'll be taking the Broncos as well. I'll take the Broncos. So I am going to, based on what I just said there, I'm going to take the Broncos, but do not be surprised if Wayne Bennett, of all people, is the one to hand the Broncos their first loss. and do not be surprised if this is the real breakout game here for the Dolphins overall. I do think long-term this season, the Dolphins are not going to be able to stay the due course. However, they're doing well right now. They're riding in some pretty hot form. And yes, it should be interesting to see how they two go there. So I'll go Broncos I'll go 1-12. I think it'll be a good game. I think it'll be a good game there. All right, let's go have a look at the chat. That Johnson says, can't tip the Tigers with Cameron Munster back. Yeah, that was the other game there. Jesse says, I want the Dolphins to win. I need the media to get a reality check when trying to compare Slater and what? What, the media's comparing Slater and Walsh? Like, Walsh is good, but Billy Slater's second and none. I need the media to get a good shot. That's the dumbest comparison I have ever seen. What? Reece Walsh and Billy Slater? That's mad. That's mad. Brisbane media, you're something else. That is absolutely appalling. That is appalling behaviour there to be comparing those two. Marcus, I'm surprised by those odds. Get watch something your mouth says there will be 20k Dolphins fans and 30k Broncos fans, and if Broncos win, 50k Broncos fans will walk out. Absolutely. You're exactly right. Exactly right. Mitchell Jeffrey says Warriors will shred the ball. Okay. Brighton says Wayne Bennett scares the shit out of me for this game. He's going to have them frothing at the mouth. Can Kevy do the same? I bloody hope so. Yeah. Again, I believe that if anyone's going to get the job done, it is actually Wayne Bennett here against the Broncos. I'm still going to take the Bronx, but I will still take the Bronx, but Giants will be funny to the crowd. Yeah, 50,000 Broncos fans in the skies. Christian Gibbs, it's amazing how this team is 3-0 when everyone didn't think they would get a win until at least round 5 against the Dragons. Yeah, I get that in hindsight, but with that being said, the Knights are pretty damn well poor. They're a bottom 4 team right now. The Raiders, that was their first win against the Sharks, and they're okay. And the Roosters never play round 1 well. So it's like, yeah, ultimately, they should have been losing to the Roosters, but they didn't. They won the game. Congratulations to them. And ultimately, no one would have thought they'd be 3-0. But also, ultimately, you got to look more into the context of the games that were at this point of the season. But yes, I absolutely did not think that they would be winning 3 of those games. I absolutely did not think that they would win probably the first 2 games. The one against the Knights was probably still a 50-50 that would have been called. Jai says, Jared Wallace, Alexander, what Jared Wallace do? Watch the Dolphins documentary, piece of shit. Malcolm says, Dolphins come out the gate better than any new NRL teams to win first 3. It's like, what's Jared Wallace done? Hey, what's Jared Wallace done for the Dolphins in regards to this winning record? You know, I had a lot of respect for that guy, but my God, he's about himself, isn't he? Like, my God, he's about himself. What has he done in this Dolphins team in these first 3 rounds to be coming out and slandering a team that gave you literally everything for the last God knows how long? Right? You made your career a little bit at the Broncos. You established your career whilst playing with the Titans. But yet he goes out because he's just such a soft cock that he comes out and he just slanders the club on the documentary there by making fun of the team and talking shit about the team. Well, guess what, Jared? No worries. We've all got a bit of an audience here, right? So don't worry. I'll also call you out for your dog shit words that you said in the documentary. And I knew Jared. You know, Jared and I would have a laugh. You know, we would. He was always part of the show whenever he could. But I'm club first. I'm not going to be player first, right? And we haven't spoken since, right? If you're going to come out and you're going to shit on the club, well, guess what? Don't worry, I can come for you too. Malcolm says Dolphins come out the gate better than any NRL teams to win first 3. Christian Care says Wayne Bennett's a better coach than Craig Belton. No. Alexander says I'm not saying it's completely out of the question, but I'm saying Wayne Bennett isn't a better coach than Craig Bellamy. I got Craig Bellamy. Corey Pakes should start with Billy Walters. I would agree. Bentley the Cool Dude says the Broncos fan. I say Broncos obviously win. I'm backing the boys 1-12. Dolphins can't win without the ball. Brighton says Finn shouldn't be $3 more than like $2.20 or something. Yeah, I don't understand how they're they're $3. I think that's good value. I think $3 is good value there for the Dolphins, to be completely honest with you. Yeah, I think that's it should be like $1.80, $2 based off how the games have been going so far. Like, you know, considering everyone is, you know, circle jerk on the Dolphins, I don't understand why they're so far out odds, especially when they're the home team, and especially when they'll have a packed out crowd there, and everybody's second team apparently right now is the Dolphins. Jesse says, yeah, they were talking about it on NRL on 9. Who was saying about what? Wallace? Chip says, are you alright? Wayne Bennett is the guy to coaching, you know nothing. Okay, bro. Yeah, no worries, bro. Yeah, okay. No, nothing. You just sound stupid. I got Craig Bellamy. Yeah, actually, we're just going to... How about this one, bro? How about this one? Are you all right? All right, bro. Catch up. All right, so let's move on to the next game here, guys. Let's move on to the next game here. I hope you enjoyed that one, Chip. I hope that was a really nice little insult there because you won't be coming back to the channel. Mwah. See you later. But let's move on to the next game here, and it's going to be the Cowboys versus the Gold Coast Titans. Obviously, this is my team here in the Gold Coast Titans. I will be up there at Townsville on the weekend. It's going to be hot. It's going to be definitely hot, that's for sure. It'll be a super interesting one there. But guys, obviously hit that thumbs up button, subscribe if you are new around here. The Cowboys obviously came into this game and they're 2-1. No, they're 1-2. Sorry, yeah, they are 1-2. They won their game against the Raiders in round 1. It was very, very close there. 19-18, they're up 18-0, and then they let the Raiders come back to 18-18 before they kicked a field goal. The second game, the Cowboys just were not great against the Broncos at all. And the third game, they took on the Warriors at home, and everyone expected them to win, and they didn't do nothing. The Warriors did away with them pretty easily there. This Cowboys team is so underwhelming compared to last year. They really are. They've really disappointed. I did say they would drop off a bit, but I didn't think they'd drop off this much, right? They've still got the same roster. They've still got the same setups, but unfortunately, it doesn't seem like they have that surprise factor. And you would have heard that quite a lot in my preseason chat about them, is that the surprise factor isn't there anymore. They're not the underrated team anymore, right? So a lot of times, Roosters are not this team. Storm are not this team. Even the Broncos are not this team. Teams like the Titans, teams like the Warriors, teams like the Cowboys, another one. You'd even say the Knights, you'd say the Raiders, Sharkies, all these type of teams. They will relish being the underdog, all right? I know that a lot of teams are bad normally. However, it's a lot more... you believe in your team a lot more when your team is the underdog because you know they're going to try and get themselves up for it rather than be complacent. The Titans, if they're a favourite, I always get nervous they're going to be complacent. So the Cowboys don't have that factor anymore. Now this year they are favourites for most games and they've disappointed so far, right? But they come up against the Titans team here that they should be able to score points with. You'd hope so, especially at home. The Gold Coast Titans, on the other hand, they are in 6th. We are 2-1 right now. First game of the season, we beat the Tigers down there in Leichhardt. Very good defensive display. We were incredible in that game in regards to their defence. The Tigers kept pumping the line, but again, mixture of the Tigers don't know how to score, plus also the Titans defend quite well in that game. Second game against the Dragons. Unfortunately, things went against us a lot in regards to the way that game played out. Sammy Verrills went down. We had Jojo Fita go down. But overall, the Dragons just outran us in the end. When Sammy Verrills got injured, that's exactly when Tyrell Sloan broke through that gap and then put us to the sword there. And we couldn't take back the momentum, especially when you lose your best hooker in the game. And he goes off there. And our bench was incredibly small, losing Jimmy Jolliffe in that week. But again, the Dragons were the better team in that game. And then the third game, obviously against the Storm, was very hot. It was 39 degrees inside that stadium. There was reports of 42 degrees inside that stadium. All I know was that it was goddamn hot, right? The Titans put 38 points on the board. People don't want to talk about that because they conceded 34. But the point of the matter is they won the game. And they've scored the second highest amount of points in the season so far, just behind the Broncos, who scored 40 that night as well. Right? And that's what happens in hot weather. You see high scores like that. Are the Titans as bad defensively as that? Not as bad, but there still is a lot of work to go for this Gold Coast Titans team to improve themselves and to put them back into the mindset of a defensive team, which is what they were trying to do pre-season. They were trying to adjust this team from an only attack, no defense team to a attack and defense team, but a predominant view of their defense to improve. It just hasn't worked out in those last 2 weeks. If anything, this game could be like that, especially with a couple players out for the Cowboys, but also the Titans have a couple players out. So let's see. For the Cowboys here, you got James Tamo, Kulikefu, Finufuaki, Laitia, Molondreki, Mitchell Dunn, Riley Price in, with Ruben Cotter going out. You got Tom Chester as the fullback, because obviously Scotty Drinkwater is also still out. Kyle Felt and Murray Talung in the wings, with Valentine Holmes and Gehama Shibisaki as the centres. Obviously, Petahiku is also out, but he was dreadful against the Broncos. Tom Dearden is the 6, Chad Townsend, the captain, is 7, Jordan McLean and Griffin Neame is the front row, Reece Robson is the hooker, Cohen Hess, Jeremiah Nana, back row, Jason Tamalolo is the lock. So pretty much besides Reece Robson, that is a starting forwards. Starting forwards there for the Cows. Jake Granville, Harlow Lukey, Jermaine Tanoa Brown, and James Tamler, the interchange, with Brendan Elliott, Riley Price, Mitchell Dunn, Laitia Molondreki, and Kulikefu Finufoyaki as the reserves. So, yeah, overall, there is a couple players out for sure. Drinkwater, Petahiku, and Cotter. but still a team that should be able to get the job done. Could definitely get the job done there. For the Titans, my boy Keanu Kinney, Khalif Haas, Toby Sexton, and Tremaine Spry come in with nobody coming out. The Brimdog Millionaire is the fullback with Lofiana Camp-Pereira and Philip Sami on the wings. Brian Kelly and Aaron should be in the centres. You got Kizza Foran in the 5'8", Tanner Boyd in the 7. It was great to see. If you guys didn't know on Instagram, he gave us a bit of a plug here on the channel yesterday. He's a great bloke, man. I love Tanner. Mikey Fodawaker and Tina Fasul Malawi is the captain. Front row is there, and Chris Randall is the hooker. David Feeder and Joey Stimson is the back row. Isaac Liu is the lock. Jaden Campbell, Joe Vuna, Aaron Clark, and Isaac Fasul Malawi are the interchange. That interchange worked really well against the Storm, mind you. And the reserves being Khalif Haas, Sam McIntyre, Toby Sexton, Keanu Kinney, and Tremaine Spry. Overall, again, as you guys are always aware, I'm going to give you my analysis, but I am going to take the Titans. I'm not going up to North Queensland expecting to lose, and I'm not actually going up expecting to lose. I'm going up there expecting it to be a very close game. I'm going up there to see if the Cowboys can bounce back from their poor form to start the season, but I'm also going up there to see if the Titans can maintain this attack, but also just focus a little bit more on defense and not feel like you just have to outscore the opposition in the sense of just an absolute shootout, which is what we've done for 16 years. It hasn't worked out yet, and it worked out on the weekend, but it's occasional. It doesn't always work out like that. There are going to be better teams that we saw from the Storm on the weekend. Again, very hot day. It's not like the Heat's going to get to the Titans here, because you can't get hotter really than what we experienced the other day. I genuinely believe in this team. I genuinely believe in the team. There are a couple of outs there for the Cowboys that I think that can be, like Hamashi Basaki can be targeted. I don't really know a great deal about Tom Chester, to be completely honest with you. And Griffin Neem, I've never really been kind of a big thought process there. But, we are still missing some players too. Sammy Verrills is not there in the 9. We still obviously don't have Bo Firma for the season. Sammy McIntyre is still injured. I know he's here in the reserves, but I believe he's still got a little bit of a niggle there. Jojo Fafita obviously is still out as well. But that back line worked really well on the weekend with Philip Sami, should be Brian Kelly, and Lofiana Camp-Pereira. Should be obviously scoring a double, and Lofiana Camp-Pereira scoring a double as well. So yeah, I'm going to take Titans 1-12 here, man. I'm a Titans fan, of course I'm going to do that. But overall, it'll be a good game. It'll be a close game, and I'm going to back my team in. Blaze Star says, come on, Titans, no Drinkwater, Cotter, and Hickey. Best chance for the Titans for another win. Again, this is the thing. I'm not saying that you're having a go here, but this is the thing that really is weird about this season, right? The Titans also have a lot of injuries. People focus on the Storm, but, okay, they had no Munson and Nelson and Pappenhausen. That's 3 quality players. But also, they also got Justin Ola back into the team. Xavier Coates back into the team. Tuikami Kamitha back into the team. Tarek Sims back into the team. But people kept saying like there was still quite a few players out, like 5, 6, 7 players out. For the Titans, we had Sam Verrills our starting 9. Jojo Feeder our starting winger. We had... obviously, Bo Firma out, who was our starting back rower there. Sammy McIntyre obviously is out still. There's multiple players here that are struggling in regards to injuries in the Titans, but people only focus on the opposition teams. It's like, okay, the Cowboys do have injuries, but so do we. Okay, let's all have injuries, but so do we. And we still got the job done there. So, yeah, and Sam Verrills is a very, very key part of our team. Right? He's just as important to us as Munster is to the Storm, Sam Verrills. But Chris Randall came in and he did a job as well. And that was why it was great to have him on the vlog on the weekend. Because, he needed to know that. He came in and did a job as well. But Sam Verrills is Sam Verrills. He's a great player there. So I think we need to understand a little bit more in regards to the fact the Titans also are playing, with a couple players out too. Nathan Johnson says, definitely going Titans here. Cowboys aren't playing well. Dazmate says, Titans by 50. Jay Hayes, the Titans fan, says, Titans smash. Get my snap mouse to Titans 50, Cowboys 8. God help it. God help it if that happened. God help it if that happened. I know that'd be right. That'd be right if that happened. I don't think that happens, man. The highest points we've ever scored is 44. We scored, I think, 2 times or 3 times last year and like 3 times the year before that. For some reason, we can't get past 44, but if that happened, God help us, Joe. Right, there's one thing the season has taught us. You can expect a couple of upsets. I reckon this is one of them. Yeah, like, I'm surprised that they're at $2.50. I really am. I'm surprised they're at $2.50. I would have expected this to be closer as well. But I would have expected the Cowboys to be favourites. But then again, the Cowboys lost to the Warriors at home. It's not like the home ground advantage is necessarily just guaranteed for the Cowboys this year. Bro says Titans 1 at 12. I love it. Medvedev says, would I say Cowboys 13 plus, but I have a soft spot for the Titans, so I'll say Titans 13 plus. I love it, Medvedev. I love it. I love it. Jesse Hampson says, I'm not sure who it was who interviewed in the vlog, but even they said they felt like their attack was good and they just need to tighten up on their defense. If Folsom reckons they'll go good. That was Chrissy Randall, number 9. That was Chris Randall. The people that are on the vlog, I have their Instagram thing that pops up on the screen, so look at that. It will show you who it is that's talking. Jack Dempsey says Titans 1 at 12. Blake Hart says, didn't you beat the Warriors like 30-0? The Titans beat the Warriors that was 44-0, and that was in 2021. We came back from 14 points down against them at the end of last season. I think it was like 26-12 with 6 minutes to go, and the Titans tied the game and then won it with the Tanner Boyd field goal or something like that. And also last year we won 20-18 in the first home game of the season at Seabus in hot conditions. So we haven't lost to the Warriors in about 5 games, and they used to be our bogey side. But yes, I don't know why we went on that bit of a tangent, but I guess you can relate that if you'd like to. Fitty bomb, we got a fitty bomb. It'll go very quiet if that's the case. It'll go very quiet. Oh no. But I don't see that happening, man. I would love to see it happen because I'll be up there, but that will be that's quite a tough scoreline to be achieving, especially when we've never hit it before. But let's get into the next game here, guys, and it is the South Sydney Rabbitohs taking on the Manly Seagulls. Good game here. Rabbitohs are in 10th. The Manly Seagulls are 3rd. Obviously, guys, hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you are new around here. Rabbitohs go into this game as the favourites here at Accor Stadium in Sydney, coming off that loss against the Chooksters, the Roosters, their biggest rivals, obviously going for 115, 116 years. Can't believe the Broncos-Cowboys rivalry even tried to be compared to this rivalry between the Rabbitohs and the Roosters. But, yeah, Rabbitohs come into that one off that loss. Obviously beat the Sharkies in round 1. Wasn't 100% convincing in the first half at all. It was 12-12 with no Nico Hines. The second half, Rabbitohs did pull away a little bit more there and gave it a good crack against the Panthers for sure, but did come up short in the end against the Penrith Panthers. The Rabbitohs come into this game, and realistically, they should be winning this game. I think that $1.66 is actually decent value, considering where they probably should be at, in my personal opinion. The Manly Seagulls, on the other hand, they're 3rd. They obviously haven't lost a game yet, but they've had the bye. They flogged the Dogs in round 1. They had the bye, and then they beat the Eels by 4 points there. Very underwhelming performance by Manly that isn't being talked about. They made a lot of errors. They were ill-disciplined. They allowed the Eels to stay in that game when Manly should have kicked on in that game. The Manly still have a lot of issues that they need to work out. I think they were quite lucky to beat the Eels in that game, to be completely honest with you. They absolutely flogged the Dogs fair and square, and the bye was a good game for them. But the Eels game was not as convincing as anyone likes to try and make out. I was speaking to Blake Darlow, my boy on TikTok, and after on TikTok, we were doing a live, and it was, you'll take 2 points, and you'll be happy with it if you're Manly, but there is still so much that needs to be worked on. You can't hide from it. You just can't. It is what it is. Manly still they were so ill-disciplined in that game, and they would have won that game by 50 if they actually held the ball, right? But a lot of errors crept in, so I am still waiting until, I probably would say 7 rounds in before I look at Manly. 5 rounds is still too short for me, especially with the buys, but at least round 6 to see 5 rounds there. But yeah, Manly, I'm still quite worried about. Rabbitohs, Ben Lovett, Daniel Saluka-Fafita, Dean Hawkins, Jacob Host, Peter Mumble-Zealous, Tane Milne, and Talis Duncan are in, with Hamai Sele, Shakai Mitchell, and Tavita Tola as the outs. That's unlucky there for then what's happened with Shakai? Is he injured, or have they just decided to take him out? Because he's been good to start the season. Trell Mitt is the fullback with Alex Johnson and Isaac Tutupo Thompson as the wingers, Isaiah Tass and Campbell Graham at the centres. You've got Cody Walker in the 5'8", Lachlan Ilias as the halfback, Daniel Saluka-Fafita and Thomas Burgess are the front rowers, Damien Cook is the hooker, Keon Kolomatangi and Jacob Ho's back row, Cameron Murray is the lock and the captain. We've got Blake Taff, Michael Cheekham, David Moali, and Jed Cartwright interchange with Ben Lovett, Dean Hawkins, Talis Duncan, Tane Milne, and Peter Mumble-Zealous as the reserves. So, straightforward, Rabbitohs team there. Not sure about Daniel Saluka-Fafita. I feel like Shakai Mitchell. Oh, okay, Blaze Huss's foot, yeah. Shakai Mitchell must be injured because he is quite good. But still, that Rabbitohs team, there's no excuses actually for that Rabbitohs team to not be winning. Manly here, Ben Condon, Cooper Johns, Morgan Harper, and Toffo Sipley are the ins with no outs here. Tom Trbojevic is the fullback. He's been playing well so far, really good so far this season. Christian Tuipulotu and Ruben Garrick on the wings. Brad Parker, Tolta Kuola are the centres, with Joshy Schuster in the 5'8", and Daly Sherry Evans, the captain, as the halfback. Tally Lopaseka and Jake Trbojevic are the front rowers. Lachlan Croker is the number 9. Hamoli Olakawatu and Kelvin Tuilagi is the back row, with Josh Alloye, Instagram blocker, as the lock. KO Weeks, Ben Trbojevic, Ethan Bullimore, and Sean Kepi the interchange, with Toffo Sipley, Cooper Johns, Morgan Harper, Carl Lawton, and Ben Condon as the team for Manly. The reason why I'm kind of laughing here is when I read Josh Schuster's name out, I tagged him on the Instagram post when I was calling Justin Olam my son the other day on Instagram after I got into his head and absolutely ravaged him on that field. Heard some stories about halftime in regards to me from maybe what Justin Olam might have been saying from the game with Seabus, but it's all good banter and he knows that. But I tagged Joshy saying, welcome a new member to the family. Because Josh Schuster is my son from last year when I got in his head, and I did to Justin Olam. I said, welcome your brother, and Josh messaged me back saying, my brother. That was very funny. But in regards to my tip here in this game, I'm going to take the Rabbitohs. I'm going to take the Rabbitohs here. I think they're going to be too good. I think they're the better team. I think that Manly, I'm still waiting to see what's to come from them. I think that this will be a 1 or 12er, but I could also see a 13 plus here for the Rabbitohs for sure. Manly is still a good team, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to shit on Manly here whatsoever. I still think that Manly are a solid team, but there's still a long way to come here for this Manly team. They need to be better than that game against the Eels, and the Rabbitohs need to be better against that in the game against the Roosters. But I just feel like the Rabbitohs have a better team on paper for sure. Love what Josh is bringing into that 5'8" role. I do love what Manly are doing. It's going to be close, but I could see a world where Rabbitohs win it well. So I'll take the Rabbitohs here. Let's have a look at the chat. Alexander says Manly 1 12. Tommy Turbo, anytime try scorer. Jez says, you interviewed like 3 Titans players. Wasn't sure which one said it from memory. Yeah, Chris Randall. I do not want to tip this game. I haven't tipped Manly right this year, and I think if I tip them, they'll lose. If I go against them, they'll win. Please tip Manly, because then I can get my Rabbitohs tip right. Zane Potter says only 2 Saturday games this week with 3 Sundays. Yeah, I'm not too sure what's going on there. Not too sure what's happening with that one. Get watch something now says Rabbitohs 21, Manly 20, Trelmet field goal. Yeah, I don't mind that one. Oh, Big Shakai's out for 8 weeks. You're joking. I brought him in my Supercoach last week. Well, tomorrow's our live stream Supercoach analysis and whatnot, so I'll have to trade him out. Damn it. At least he gets some money, though. Blazer, New Zealand, Sunday game New Zealand. Turbo looking super dangerous. He is, yeah. Yeah, he is. He is. Just says, Fedora's awesome. Wow, your team has been successful for the better side of 2 decades. They played bad for a year or 2 and you did. What he said. If Storm lose to the Tigers, I don't support them anymore. Okay, you're a clown. Brighton says, this is a cracker of a game. Could be a real game of the round. It could be for sure. I unfortunately can't stream it. Antonio will be covering the Saturday games. He'll be covering Titans, Cowboys, and also Rabbitohs Manly. I'm spewing because I would love to watch this Rabbitohs Manly game. But I'll be streaming all the other games for sure. Spartan Jones is hard to watch league these days when you're playing league against corrupt politicians robbing our tax stash left, right, and centre. Thanks, mate. Really appreciate that one. Get my wife's now try being a Dragons, Tigers, or a Tigers fan. Oh, sorry, Dragons, Tigers, or Titans fan. Probably don't even live in Melbourne. Try being Dragons, Tigers, Titans. I was get Dragons out of here. 12 years ago they won the comp. Tigers, Titans. I'd even go as far to say Bulldogs, Knights, Warriors. Yeah, you absolutely added Knights and Warriors though. Tigers, Titans, Knights, and Warriors. But South 13 plus the occasion will get them up. They'll do it for satellite. This guy is a Rabbitohs fan, lads. So just ignore what Zane's trying, his agenda. He's pushing an agenda. Watch him. Hey, watch him. Watch this man. He's pushing an agenda. He's a Rabbitohs fan. I see it through you, son. I see it through you, sir. Sir. That's says, might have to do something with the Warriors Dogs game being on it's in New Zealand. It's all G. We got 3 on Sunday anyway. Let's see, Titans win by 14. Love it. Alright, so we've gone away from the Rabbitohs Manly game, as per usual with the chat. So we're going to move to the next game. We're going to move to the next game here, which is going to be the Warriors and the Bulldogs. The Warriors and the Bulldogs. Let's scroll this little bad boy down so you can see the rest of the games here. No, that's too far. He's gone too far, ladies and gentlemen. He's gone too far. Scroll it down. Scroll it down. Come on, Muppet. No, it's gone a little bit too far again. A little bit more up. Up. No, that's too far. No, that was too far. I was looking at the wrong thing. All right, now let's go back to this one. And let's get into the Warriors and the Bulldogs, which is the other game on the Sunday. Now, guys, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe if you are new around here. Warriors are favourites very, very slightly, though. There is no clear winner here. Anyone who says guaranteed Bolter winner, you're a muppet. There's no way you can guarantee a winner in this game because they're both just, you don't know if they're good, you don't know if they're bad, you don't know if they're just average. This game is all on. And it's in Auckland, too. Yeah, Mount Smart in Auckland. So the Warriors have the advantage of the home game. And that's the only reason they are the $1.83 favourites to the $1.98 of the Bulldogs. If this was at Belmore or this was at a Core or Combank or wherever, Bulldogs would be favourites, all right? But the Warriors are favourites because it is in New Zealand. Warriors come into this game, they were terrible but got the win against the Knights in round 1. They were half decent against the Roosters, but did lose. And then they were really good against the Cowboys in North Queensland in round 3. Warriors will take a lot of positives from the start of the season, but there is still a long way to go to prove that this Warriors team actually is a genuine team when it comes to long-term this season. This Warriors team has some good things about them. If Shaun Johnson keeps playing the way he is, that's really going to be beneficial to them because they are reliant on him, and obviously everyone's been slandering him for a long time, me included, saying he's not the player that he once was. But the last couple of weeks, he's kind of started to come back into a little bit more and show that he is potentially still that player. Doesn't have that elusiveness, doesn't have that speed, but he really is. He's playing quite well. So hopefully he can show up in this game as well against the Dogs and hump off a few of those Doggies fans out there. Doggies, on the other hand, obviously that first game against Manly was a thrashing by Manly. That did happen. It did happen, Bulldogs fans. You can't ignore it. It did actually happen, that game against Manly. But the second game, they obviously got a good win against the Storm down there in Melbourne. And the third game, they got through on the skin of their teeth against the Tigers, which is mad. Like, it was mad to allow the Tigers to do what they did late on in that game. Overall, the Dogs deserved the game, but they got complacent, they got tired, and they nearly allowed the team who is currently in last place to come back and score 20-odd points plus to take the lead over the Dogs at Belmore, of all places, with a few minutes to go. So, I love what Paul Alamotti did. I thought he was great in the game. I don't think that Addo-Carr really did much at all, actually, if it wasn't for Paul Alamotti. So everyone's going to circle jerk Addo-Carr because he's the Vise player, but Paul Alamotti, unbelievable performance there. Overall, the Dogs were decent, but in the same sense, it's against the Tigers, and also nearly lost that game at home in front of a packed-out Belmore. So things need to be looked at in regards to their stamina, their endurance, and the ability to finish off games. Warriors here for their team lineups. Chance Newton Clockstar, Dimitri Sifakula, Jackson Ford, Josh Curran, Rocco Berry, and Ronald Volkman are in, with Mitchell Barnett and Wade Egan being the outs. You've got Chance Newton Clockstar as a fullback, with Edward Kosi and Marcelo Montoya on the wings, Viliami Valea and Adam Pompey in the centres, Tamari Martin as a 6 and Shaun Johnson as the halfback, Adam Finnell-Blake and Bunty Apo as the front rowers, Freddie Lussick in the hooker role, Jackson Ford and Murata Niokore at the back rowers, Tohu Harris is the lock. You got Dylan Walker, Bailey Sirenen, Jazz Tavunga and Tom Ale as interchange. Josh Curran is the reserves. Okay, wow. Josh Curran, Tane Tuapiki, Ronald Volkman, Rocco Berry, and Dimitri Sifakula is the reserves. Interesting that Josh Curran isn't even on the bench there. He's not in the bench all the team. Jackson Ford's come in and he's taking his spot, and Tohu Harris as well is that lock now. And I'm surprised that they've gone Bunty in the starting lineup instead of Tohu Harris as the 10 and Josh Curran into that lock role. But interesting. All right. For the that's season long I'm talking about. For the Dogs here, Braden Burns, Jackson Tapine, Carl Oluwapu, and Curtis Morin are the ins with no outs. Hayes Perm is the fullback with Jacob Carraz, who's the in-form winger of the competition right now, and Addo-Carr on each wing. Jake Averillo and Paul Alamotti is the centres. Matt Burton, captain, 5'8", with Kyle Flanagan as the halfback. Max King and Ryan Sutton as the front rowers, with Reid Marnie as the number 9. You got Viliami Kikau and Jacob Preston as the back rowers. Raymond Fatala Mariner is the lock. You got Jaden Okunbor, Dasman's favourite player, Corey Waddle, Jaden Tanner, and Manu Brown as the interchange. Braden Burns, Josh Reynolds, Carlo Luapu, Jackson Tapine, and Curtis Morin as the reserves. I don't know who to tip in this game. I do not know who to tip in this game. This is a flip of the goddamn coin. It really is. It's a flip of the coin. It is a flip of the coin. I'm going to take the Warriors. I'm going to take the Warriors here in New Zealand. If it was in Sydney, or if it was in Australia, I'd take the Dogs. I don't know. I'm not convinced with either of these teams yet. I still need to see a few things from them. That's why I wait 6-7 rounds before I make my judgments. But because it's in New Zealand, and again, guys, New Zealand is not an unbeatable place, right? The Titans beat them in New Zealand. The Storm beat them in New Zealand. The Knights nearly this year beat them in New Zealand. New Zealand's home ground is not a fortress right now, but I do think that it will give them the advantage over the Dogs in this game, especially when the Warriors have some positivity about them. New Zealanders, there's a large portion of the Warriors fan base that are massive bandwagoners. There are genuine portion of their fan base that also do support them week in, week out. But a large portion of the country of New Zealand will only get behind the Warriors when they're successful, because they've got the Crusaders, they've got the Blues, they've got the Chiefs, you know, they've got the All Blacks. They love their rugby union and whatnot, and they're going well, so why support the Warriors? They're shit. If the Warriors have got this positive 2-1 record right now, you know, you go and have a look at the ladder, the Warriors are in 4th position. Overall, this is going to get a good crowd, and I can see the Warriors getting up for it to instill some belief in this team going into this year. Because we are still very, very early in the competition. I'll go the Warriors here, but it will be close. I could see either team winning 13+, but I think it will be close, and I think it'll go down to the wire. Alright, let's go have a look here. David says, might have something to do with the Warriors-Dogs game being on, and it's in New Zealand. Dogs 13+, we haven't lost in New Zealand this year. We haven't lost in New Zealand this year. Hey, neither have we, Daz, mate. Neither have we. Neither of the Broncos. Neither of the Storm. Neither of, I think about 95% of teams. Actually, you know, yeah, 99% of teams. That 1% being the Knights. You muppet. Alexander says Warriors should win this one. Dave Murray says Daz, mate, Dogs won at 12. I can't believe this. That guy is something else, eh? Got something else. Dogs 16, Warriors 14. Christian Kerr's got to give Sean Johnson credit. He's been good so far this year. Wasn't good at all in round 1. At all. It was terrible in round 1. But round 2 and round 3 was good. Jay says, I agree with you. Neither of these sides have solidified themselves as true contenders. This game is 50-50. I lean Warriors, but I think I'll take Dogs. What you mean? I lean Warriors, but I'll take the Dogs. If you lean it this way, why you got it that way? If you lean this way, you're going to foot it this way. So why you foot it this way? It makes no sense. You're silly, man. You're a silly man. Brian said, yeah, actually, that's right. He's only played one good game, and that was the game against the Cowboys. The second game was okay. He wasn't fantastic at all in that one. The first game, it was dreadful. His third game was good. Yeah, Brian's right. He's had one good game. I'll give you that. Still not convinced on him, for sure. Curran got a bit of a minor injury, didn't he? I'm not sure. Put Reynolds in 17. I put him in 7. Bugs says, Curran's still 50-50 on his hip injury he picked up against the Roosters. Oh, there you go. Well, he didn't even start that game, though, did he? He didn't even start that game, though. I think he came off the bench as well. Warriors safe a tip because it's their first game in Auckland. Yeah. For one of my brains to get to the Raiders, I'm going to take... you know what? I'm going to tip the Dragons Sharks game before the Raiders, just because you're saying get to the Raiders. You know what? I'm going to tip round 5's games before I get to the Raiders. Shut up, Muppet. Immortal Wolf says go the Rabbitohs this week. Jesse says my tips would suck this year. Go against my lean. Christian says, bro really said he's leaned to the Warriors, but he's tipping the dog. And he's a silly man. He's a silly man. We get this half the time as well in these tipping videos. We get someone saying, like, I remember every week there was one person who kept saying that they think this team's going to win. For example, they think the Warriors are going to win, but I'm going to tip the Dogs. We get that every week. It's wild. I don't know how it happens, but it happens. I don't know how it happened, but it happens silly. Jackson Ford's taking a sport. Preston has been great start of the season. Yes, he has. All right, let's move into the last game here. Let's move into... the second last game. So I had to deal with somebody, Raiders clowns, so I forgot that I had to do that game too. But let's get into the second last game here of the weekend. I didn't even mention the Roosters get the bye, but guess what, guys? The Roosters get the bye, which is the Newcastle Knights taking on the Canberra Raiders in Newcastle at McDonald Jones Stadium there, guys. Now, obviously, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe if you're new around here, on the way 22k, baby, let's get it. But the Knights, they are very Newcastle-y so far this season. I think we all knew this was going to be kind of where they would be. The first game was dreadful, just absolutely appalling. The Warriors were appalling, and yet they still won that game of the Knights. Close, but the Knights came out the worst of the worst, considering the Warriors were also the worst, but still won. The second game, the Knights played the Tigers, and they got the win there. There was a send-off. There was multiple injuries, and they still came in. It was a gutsy effort, but guess who it is against? The Tigers. Right, so it's not a team that you can really look at and be like, oh, wow, they beat a good team there, wow. In the third game, they took on the Dolphins. It was very close for 75 minutes, and then the Dolphins scored a couple of tries late. Overall, that game was probably more of a positive for Newcastle than a negative in my personal opinion. I think it showed more about Knights than people give them credit for. I did think they were pretty okay for the most part, and I do think that it's interesting in regards to one of the Dolphins tries, two of the Dolphins tries actually, but specifically one where he was obviously losing control of the ball and that was given a try, but in the game after that, I think it was the Rabbitohs game, there was a try where the Roosters weren't given because they were saying that they called it as a no try because they said he was losing control, but it was the exact same thing as that one. So yeah, I think the Knights got a little bit dudded there, or it's just the Roosters got dudded. One of the two. Either the Knights or the Roosters got dudded. Raiders, on the other hand, they were terrible for the first 20 minutes. The Cowboys game in round 1, but then bounced back for the next 60. Made a game 18-18 when they were down 18-0. Lost 19-18. Second game, they were pretty poor, but it was really dreadful conditions at Redcliffe when they lost to the Dolphins there. Third game, obviously, they beat the Sharkies 24-20. Wasn't 100% convincing, but with that being said, still were able to score 24 points. But then again, that's a trajectory that we're seeing from the Sharks every single game so far this year. So is it a Raiders thing or is it a Sharks thing? I would personally lean to the fact that it was probably more Sharkies than Raiders. However, the Raiders still got the win. They got their first win, and it was in Canberra. This is in Canberra, but they are the favourites here for this game. And now for the Knights here, their team, Adam Clune, Anara Tuala, Greg Martiu, Jack Johns, Jaden Brayley, Kurt Mann, and Tyson Frizzell are in, with Dominic Young, Oren Keeley, and Wright Rivet going out. Lachlan Miller is the fullback, with Harlan Hunt and Greg Marcy on the wings. My boy Greg and Marcy finally gets into the team. Dane Gagai, Bradman Best in the centres. Tyson Gamble is the 6. Jackson Hastings is the halfback, with Daniel Saifidi and Leo Thompson front row. Jaden Brayley, the captain, is the hooker. You got Bro Jones and Lachlan Fitzgibbon back row. Kurt Mann is the lock, with Phoenix Crossland, Jack Hetherington, Matt Kroger, and Jack Johns interchange. Dylan Lucas, Adam Clune, Thomas Kern, Anara Tuala, and Tyson Frizzell, the reserves. Pretty straightforward, nice team there. Obviously with that Jacob Saifidi, who's suspended for about 13 years. Bang average forward pack, minus Daniel Saifidi. And then back line is still quite bang average, but has a bit of something there with Lachlan Miller. Greg Martiu, terrible defender, but one of the best top 3 attacker in the game, but bottom 3 for defense. This team's all over the shop. It really is all over the shop. But they're at home. Maybe they can get up for this one. I don't know. Raiders here. Brad Schneider, Josh Papali'i, Peter Holla, Sammy Valamay, and Zach Wolford are in, with Danny Levi being out. You've got Sebastian Chris as the fullback, with James Schiller and Albert Hopper-White on the wings. Matty Tomoko and Harley Smith-Shields are the centres. Jack White in 6, Jamal Fogarty in the 7. You've got Josh Papali'i and Joseph Tarpanay as the front rowers. Zach Wolford is the hooker. Hudson Young and Elliot Whitehead are the back rowers, and Whitehead's the captain. Corey Huddle-Waranara in his 51st game is the lock. You've got Tom Starling, Pasami Saulo, Corey Horsburgh, and Emre Goulet in the interchange. And then you've got reserves, Matt Frawley, Brad Schneider, Trey Mooney, Semi Valamay, and Peter Holler. I'm going to go the Raiders here. I can see a world they win 13 plus. I will just simply say Raiders and not do a prediction in regards to that, because it's very tough to do that one. But I do think the Raiders have got a better team. I think the Raiders have got a better team. I think they've got a bit more direction. Their Jamal Fogarty is just average. Zach Wolford comes in. For Dane Levi, I actually think that might benefit that team a lot more in regards to pace. Jack Whiten is Jack Whiten, and Sebastian Chris is okay. But overall, that back line for me is still better than that back line of the Knights. And overall, that forward line of the Raiders is much better than the Knights forward line for me. Even reserves, Tom Starling, Solo, Horsburgh, and Emre Gula is better than Crossland, Hetherington, Kroger, and Jack Johns. I think that every single part of the park, the Raiders have it over the Knights here. And that's not me saying that the Raiders are a good team, but I definitely believe they are the better team in this matchup. I think this matchup is prime for Raiders. It could be prime for Raiders walloping, actually. It could be. But alright, let's have a look at the chat. Cruz Mosson says Raiders big win last week. It was a big win. Still a lot that is left to be desired, but it was a big win in regards to them getting off the duck egg, obviously, of 0. The first 2 games were ones that they should have been expecting to win. Actually, who was their first game again? I can't remember. The second game was the Dolphins. They definitely expected to win that one. Oh, the Cowboys won. I still think the Raiders should have gone into that game expecting to win that one, and the Raiders should go into this game Rays went into last week. I don't think the Rays should go into many games except for maybe the Panthers, maybe the Rabbitohs. No, I just said the Panthers are the only team they wouldn't necessarily expect to win against. They'll still go into it with that mindset. But I'm just saying, overall, it's been a disappointing season so far for the Raiders. But hopefully that win in Canberra will get them off the mark into a good bit of momentum here. Alex Dennis, they should have dropped Harmon Hunt instead of Dominic Young. Is Dominic Young dropped or is he injured? Is Dominic Young dropped or is he injured? Because he's not even on the reserves. So I'm going to lean with injured. I would lean with injured there. One something else is the angry orangutan from Meat Pie. We've got a double. We've got a double to do. Jai says Dom Young leaving so they don't want him playing. Oh, yeah, no, probably isn't injured. He's probably just not playing because he hasn't been playing well. So they might just be bringing Greg Marciu. Yeah, you're right, because he is going to leave. He is going to leave. It says, well, no doubt tip Rays here. Yeah, I can see it well in the nice deal, but I think the Rays will be too good. Nice getting the spoon. Rays should win by 13 plus. Rays aren't a team that you should be expecting to win by 13 plus in any game. However, the Raiders have a chance to win this game by a good margin. Alexander says, Ricky has a vendetta against Tom Starling. He refuses to start him. No, it's not that. It's that Tom Starling is a limited minutes player. Tom Starling's game style is not an 80-minute player. You want him coming on and sprucing up the attack. You want him coming on and providing extra spark and pace when the forwards are tired. Right? This is Ricky's mindset. He is a very good coach in regards to managing players. Right? Is he a good coach in regards to winning comps? Clearly not. Right? But he does make his teams competitive, and if I'm ever going to give credit to Ricky Stewart, I'm going to say that he knows how to manage the minutes. I think Tom Starling deserves more minutes, but in the same sense that when he's on, not all the time is he killing it. You know, Tom Starling is a good player, but not every moment that he's on the field is he the best player. So I think that it's absolutely worthwhile what Ricky's doing in regards to Starling. I'll get James to fortnight you, Braden. You're done, buddy. Gregory John says Roosters are warming up. Bro, I wouldn't be too impressed with that season so far. Jack Thompson says Rays 1 at 12. Blaze has dropped because signed with the Roosters. Has he actually officially signed with the Roosters yet? Has he signed with the Roosters officially just yet? I'm not sure. He's dropped for swapping clubs or something. Oh, there you go. Well, fair enough. Fair enough. All right, well, there you go. So that's my tip there for the second last game of the round, which is the Canberra of the Raiders. We got to the final game here of the round, and it is a Shire derby, effectively. The St. George Illawarra Dragons taking on the Cronulla Sharkies. Now, guys, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe if you're new around here. It is the Dragons at home at Cogra against the Sharks here. Sharks are the favourites, and they do get a really, really big inclusion. The Dragons season so far, they had the bye to start off the year. They beat the Titans when everyone was shitting on them. You know, they came out and they proved something. But overall, they came back down to earth with that game against the Broncos where they were in it for 70 minutes and then got absolutely humiliated in the last 10 minutes. And that was a really key thing for the Dragons, is that when they gave up, when things went against them, they gave up. Like, they really fell apart, the Dragons, man. It was so disappointing to see from them. Overall, there was no oomph, no nothing. So this Dragons team hasn't changed much in regards to my thought process long term this year. The Cronulla Sharkies, obviously, they are in 12th right now. They've won one game, and that was against the Eels in round 2, 30-26 in my game of the season so far. First game, they were 12-12 at halftime with the Rabbitohs, and then Rabbitohs pulled away in the second half. The third game, they were... man. Dude, it's so hard sometimes when I think about all the different games they've played. I went backwards this time. I went 2, 1, and then 3. Who was the one they played in the weekend? It was the... Raiders, that's right. We just did that game. It was the Canberra Raiders, right? So, the Sharks were close in that game, but have been missing their best player, the Dally M medal of last year, every single game so far. However, the Sharks team has a lot more problems than just Nico Hines. They are giving up 28, 26, and 24 points every game. That is a lot of points to be giving up. A lot of points to be giving up for the Sharks. So Craig Fitzgibbon, a defensive assistant at defensive assistant at the Roosters, defensive coach, came across and last year improved their defense. This year it's back down to being what they were doing in 2020 and 2021, where they were just giving up points, but being able to score points too. And the Sharks do know how to score points. They still scored 12 first week or whatever, but 30 against the Eels and 20 against the Raiders, right? So it's not like this team doesn't know how to score points. But overall, this is interesting because it is a local derby down there around the Southern Shire region. But for the Dragons here, you got Aaron Woods, Max Feeney, Talatau Almone, and Toby Couchman in with no outs. You got Tyrell Sloan as the fullback, Matthew Feeney and Makara Balau on the wings, Moses Sully and Zach Lomax in the centres. Jaden Sutherland as the 6, Ben Hunt as the captain as halfback, Francis Molo and Blake Laurie as the front row, Mo Zembai in the hooker, Ben Murdoch-Masilla and Jaden Stewart the back rows, and Jack Bird is the lock. Jacob Little, Zane Musgrove, Toby Couchman, and Josh Kerr are the interchange. Michael Molo, Max Feeney, Jaden Hunt, Talatau Moan, and Aaron Sharon Woods are the reserves. Really okay Dragons team. You know, it's what we expect. The forwards, the back line's pretty good. I don't mind Matthew Feeney, Sully, Lomax, and Ravalawa. Lomax is superbly overrated, but overall those 4 players are still, quality. And then Jaden Sullivan and Hunt have been doing well, but did nothing in that last 10 minutes. They couldn't help this team just get absolutely slaughtered by the Broncos in that last 10. For the Sharkies, you've got Jaden Burrell, Mwani Hiroti, Nico Hines, and Thomas Hazelton as the ins. The outs, no one there. William Kennedy is the fullback with Siona Katoa and Ronaldo Malatalo on the wings. Jesse Ramian and Seth Talakai in the centres. Matt Mullen is the 6 with Nico Hines as the halfback. You've got Toby Rudolph and Braden Hamueli, the front rowers. Blake Rowley as the hooker. Brenton Nakora and Teague Wilton are the back rowers. And then Dal Finucane is the captain. And playing lock, Cameron McInnes, Royce Hunt, Oregon Kafusi, and Braden Trindle interchange with Jack Williams, Mwani Hiroti, Thomas Hazelton, Jaden Burrell, and Con Tracy as the reserves. I'm going to take the Sharks. I'm going to take the Sharks here. I think the Sharks are a better team. I think that they'll have a large amount of Sharks fans in attendance because it's literally 20 minutes from Cronulla, 10-15 minutes from Cronulla. The Sharks have a better lineup on paper. The Sharks should be able to win this game by a decent amount. But it will be... I actually find that this game doesn't usually end close, does it? I don't think this game usually ends close. I usually think the team who wins by like 16, 14 pointer. I don't know. I think the Sharks win this game. I just think they're the better team here. And the Dragons are kind of where we thought they would be, minus the... breakout game that they wanted to have to prove to everyone we're not spooners. It's like, you still could be. But we'll see. We'll see for sure. We'll see for sure. All right, let's go to the chat here. Let's go to the chat. Jesse says he's dropped something club or something. Alexander says Sharks 13 plus. Jesse says, has he signed? I thought it was speculation. He was getting in talks with the Chooks. I don't think he's officially signed yet. Cruz Mosen says Sharks defense hasn't been good at all. It's not good. I'm taking the Dragons to the upset. I think they'll start this year well and drift away like always. Sharks defense has not been good, but in the same sense, they've still got the points to absolutely put a 30, 40, or even a 50 bomb past this Dragons team. Their defense isn't exactly fantastic. A Titans team that lost a lot of their players due to injury and whatnot in the game against the Dragons still ended up scoring about 20 odd points there. The Broncos just put 40 past them on the weekend, and like 20 of those points came in the last 10 minutes of the game. This Dragons team can absolutely give up points, and the Sharks are an attacking-minded outfit, and they have their best player, Nico Hines, back into the team. So they haven't been shortchanged in regards to being able to score points, but Nico Hines will be able to settle them down a lot more in regards to the direction on the field, and hopefully he brings back a confidence that they can force their defense to get back to where it was. Because there's no confidence, there's no belief, there's no anything in regards to the defense right now at Cronulla, and that's the biggest worrying sign in regards to their season. Nico Hines comes back in, you hope that obviously he brings something and that confidence returns, but overall it's a hard one. It is a hard one. When Hines comes back, I would put Trindle at 6 and Moylan at 14. Trindle will play very similarly to Nico Hines though. I think Nico Hines and Matt Moylan play well together. Jesse says, I'm glad Trindle is at least on 17. He's done well at 7 and plays with Nico. Sharky's 13 plus for me. Yeah, I think that Nico will probably play New South Wales in some capacity. So I would say that Trindle will be their 7 during the Origin period for sure. Jack Dempsey says Sharks 13 plus. He's a Sharks fan. But there we go, guys. That is the tips there for round number 4. We'll do a couple more comments here and then we'll jump off. We've been going for about an hour and 20 minutes now. But yeah, we'll do a couple more comments here and then we will jump off. So shoot through anything that you may have. Obviously, thumbs up, subscribe, and yeah, it should be big weekend. But we will be doing. There will be a stream for every single game, plus also a Titans Cowboys vlog because Antonio will be covering the Titans Cowboys game and also the Rabbitohs Manly game. Jay says, "Cheers, Mr. Streamer." Yeah, I might just jump. I might jump because we've got the Supercoach tomorrow as well. I think thoughts on Big Joe getting dropped. Big Joe? Oh, you're not going to do it, are you? You're not going to be a 10-year-old, are you? If you're going to be a 10-year-old, then we're going to remove you. He might say Big Joe Mama or some shit. Because I don't know who he's talking about, Big Joe. Cruz Mosen says, what do you think about Tuapeki from the Warriors? I thought he's good. I didn't get to watch that full game I didn't get to watch the full game because obviously I was at the Titans versus Storm game. But no, I like Big Joe off of Hengawi. Forgive me for thinking that you were about to try and slap me with a Joe Mama joke. I'll get to that in a sec. Tuapeki, I knew him from the Titans, so I knew he had the talent in him. I think that he, if it wasn't, Chance to a clock star is good, so he's not going to be able to get really into that team while Chance is there. But Tuapeki is a really good depth option there, and no, I think he'll work well with this team. And he's got a much better chance here at the Warriors than he did at the Titans, because at the Titans, you've got AJ Brimson, the fullback, then you've got Jaden Campbell next in line. Then you've got Keanu Kinney as well there. There's a few players that unfortunately were in front of him, so that's why he did end up leaving and going to the Warriors. Jaden says, why isn't the Tigers in the underdog poll? Because there's only 14. You can only put 4 things in a poll on YouTube, mate. You can only put 4 things. But guys, that's right, Joe off of Hengawi. I haven't seen him do much so far, to be completely fair. I haven't seen Joe off of Hengawi do much for this Tigers team. Interesting that Fonua-Pole is there. Yeah, I'm not sure. Because Alex Twal could have easily just gone to the lock. Maybe they just believe in Fonua-Pole a bit more than off of Hengawi overall, yeah. Cruz Moses says, Aaron Shoop, a solid pick up for the Titans. Yeah, for sure. A defensive mindset. He's a really good defensive player. Didn't do greatly against the Storm, but in the same sense, that was the heat and also the way that game played out. But yeah, Shoop is a great player. A great player. So hopefully he can really click it up there for the Titans going into this season. And yeah, it was good to see him score a double. But guys, I'm going to jump off here for now. I appreciate you as per usual tuning in here. I'll be back on tomorrow night for my Supercoach. What's it called? For my Supercoach analysis. Where I go through my team and talk to you guys about all the pickups and whatnot. So yeah, I appreciate you as usual. Hit that thumbs up button, subscribe if you're new around here, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Catch you later. See ya.